Finding information in information technology and computing. Introduction. The internet provides a world of information, but how do you find what you are looking for? This unit will help you discover the meaning of information quality and teach you how to evaluate the material you come across. You will learn how to plan your searches effectively and be able to experiment with some of the key resources in this area. By the end of this guide, you should be able to conduct your own searches efficiently and effectively. Find references to material in bibliographic databases. Make efficient use of full-text electronic journal services. Critically evaluate information from a variety of sources. Understand the importance of organizing your own information. Identify some of the systems available. Describe how to use bookmarks. Favorites for web resources. Understand how and why to cite references in your work. Produce a bibliography. Identify and use different tools and techniques to keep yourself up to date. 1. Finding and using information. Rate yourself. 1 Introduction. If you explore all the resources and activities in this unit, you might need to allow between 2 and 9 hours to complete it. Before you read this guide, why not use the self-assessment questions on the following screens to rate your current level of knowledge? Print or save these questions, and for each question, mark the most appropriate number on the scale. When you have finished, you can review your answers. A score of 3 or less might indicate a gap in your knowledge or understanding, and you may want to pay particular attention to these areas when you work through the guide. 2 Key resources. When you need to find information in computing, how confident are you that you know the best places to search, e.g., search engines, subject gateways, online databases, etc. to find the information you need? 5 Very confident. 4 Confident. 3 Fairly confident. 2 Not very confident. 1 Not confident at all. How familiar are you with journal articles as a source of information? 5 Very familiar. 4 Familiar. 3 Fairly familiar. 2 Not very familiar. 1 Not familiar at all. 3 Searching for information on computing. How well does the following statement match what you do when you begin a new search for information? Before I begin a new search for information, maybe for an assignment, or to help you choose your next holiday destination, I spend some time thinking about what I already know, what the gaps in my knowledge are, and the best types of information to meet my needs. 5 This is an excellent match. This is exactly what I do. 4 This is a good match. I usually do this. 3 This is a reasonable match. I do this to some extent. 2 This is a poor match. I don't really do this. 1 This does not match. I don't do this at all. How well does the following statement match what you do when you are thinking of keywords or search words to use to search for information? When thinking of search words, I break down my topic into broad areas and then identify the most appropriate search words. I also consider any synonyms or alternative subject words that might have been used to describe my topic. 5 This is an excellent match. This is exactly what I do. 4 This is a good match. I usually do this. 3 This is a reasonable match. I do this to some extent. 2 This is a poor match. I don't really do this. 1 This does not match. I don't do this at all. 4 Evaluating information. How well does the following statement describe your approach to evaluating the information that you use? When I come across a new piece of information, e.g., a website, newspaper article, I consider the quality of the information, and based on that I decide whether or not to use it. 5 This is an excellent match. This is exactly what I do. 4 This is a good match. I usually do this. 3 This is a reasonable match. I do this to some extent. 2 This is a poor match. I don't really do this. 1 This does not match. I don't do this at all. 5 Organizing information. How confident are you that you know when it is appropriate to cite references, refer to the work of other people in your written work? 5 Very confident. 4 Confident. 3 Fairly confident. 2 Not very confident. 1 Not confident at all. How confident do you feel about producing bibliographies, lists of references in an appropriate format to accompany your written work? 5 very confident, 4 confident, 3 fairly confident, 2 not very confident, 1 not confident at all, 1. 6 keeping up to date. How familiar are you with the following different ways of keeping up to date with information? Alerts, mailing lists, news groups, blogs, RSS, professional bodies and societies. 5 very familiar, 4 familiar, 3 fairly familiar, 2 not very familiar, 1 not familiar at all. 2 searching for information on computing. 2. 1 planning your search. Your approach to searching will depend to a great extent on what kind of person you are. In an ideal world, when searching for information for a specific purpose, we would all find what exactly we were looking for at the first attempt, especially if we are in a hurry. However, it's always a good idea to have some kind of plan when you are searching for information, if only to help you plan your time and make sure you find the information you need. If I was starting to search for material on how to reduce the impact of my life on the environment, I would form a rough plan. I propose the following plan as one I could use, and as a plan for you to use. If you wish to view this animation in a separate player, please click on the link below. Flash content unavailable. View document. 2. 1. 1. Choosing keywords. Keywords are significant words which define the subject you are looking for. The importance of keywords is illustrated by the fact that there is a whole industry around providing advice to companies on how to select keywords for their websites that are likely to make it to the top of results lists generated by search engines. We often choose keywords as part of an iterative process. Usually, if we don't hit on the right search terms straight off, most of us tweak them as we go along based on the results we get. However, if you are looking for specific information, it is sometimes better to take a systematic approach to choosing your keywords. Follow my example below. Ask yourself, what do I need to know? I need to know more about personalization and privacy in online banking. Break the topic down into its broad areas or concepts. You will usually find that your question breaks down into a couple of ideas or concepts. Personalization, privacy, online banking. Think of some alternative words for the words you have chosen. For instance, young people and adolescents mean roughly the same thing. So that you don't miss anything, remember. Plurals: child, children. Abbreviations: UK, United Kingdom. Variations in spelling: color, color, specialist, specialized. Variations in terminology used in different cultures and countries. For instance, children with emotional and behavioral problems UK are referred to as maladjusted children in the US. This will help to ensure that you find things that an author might have referred to using different terms. It is important to think of synonyms or alternative subject words when you are planning a search, because including synonyms will ensure that you don't miss relevant material. But don't worry if you can't always find any sensible substitutes for the words you have chosen. There might not be any. In this example, I might use data protection as well as privacy, customization as well as personalization, electronic banking as well as online banking, as well as techniques. I might use increasing as well as improving. Write out your query in full. I need to know about personalization or customization and data protection or privacy and electronic or online banking. By using this approach, I have created a search statement that I can use to search any resource, whether it's a search engine, a database, or an electronic journal. 2. 2 basic principles. Whatever resource you choose to use to find information on the internet, many of the same principles apply. Each source that you use will probably look quite different from the one you tried before, but you'll notice that there are always features that are similar: a box to type your search terms in, for instance, or a clickable help button. Different resources refer to the same functions using different terminology, but the principles behind them are exactly the same. The trick is to check the clues given on the screen or in the help of the individual database you are using. Use the checklist of common features at the bottom of this page to explore. A search engine such as Google, particularly the advanced search features. A book catalog, such as WorldCat. a site providing access to electronic journals, such as IT Architect checklist of common features. Is there any online help? Can I do a simple search? Can I look at the information in both short and detailed form? Can I choose where in the record I want my search terms to be found? Can I search for phrases? Can I combine search terms? Can I use truncation? Can I use wildcards? Can I do an advanced search? Can I get a list of what I've found? 3 resources. 3. 1 introduction. You can find a lot of information about the computing on the internet. To find this information you might choose to use search engines and subject gateways, books and electronic books, databases, journals. 3. 2 search engines and subject gateways. Although both search engines and subject gateways will help you find the resources that you need, the types of information that you find will differ. Search engines such as Google and Yahoo search the internet for keywords or phrases, and then show you the results. These results are not mediated by the search engines, and therefore you need to use your own judgment on the reliability of the results. You may, for example, find websites written by experts, alongside websites written by someone with little knowledge of the subject. You may wish to try using some search engines such as Google, Yahoo, AltaVista, Ask. Come for the subject you are interested in. You can also find more scholarly information through the search engine Google Scholar. Google Scholar searches peer-reviewed papers, theses, books, abstracts and articles from academic publishers, professional societies, preprint repositories, universities and other scholarly organizations. However, as not everything listed on Google Scholar is freely available, you may find that you cannot access certain resources. Subject gateways, also called directories, in contrast to search engines, provide links to more academic, reliable information. They usually provide a brief description of the resource as well as a link directly to it. Directories and gateways can be browsed and usually searched too. Most directories and gateways are maintained manually with strictly imposed quality criteria, so the resources directories and gateways return will generally be of a consistent quality. As a result of the limited coverage, you may get a smaller number of results or hits returned from a directory or gateway. Subject gateways you may wish to try include Bubble contains selected information resources covering all subject areas. Search by keyword or browse by subject. Intuit. Computing Intuit is maintained within UK universities to provide links to evaluated network resources. Tech Extra, a companion site to Intuit for locating articles, books, the best websites, the latest industry news, job announcements, technical reports, technical data, full-text reprints, the latest research, teaching and learning resources and more, in engineering, mathematics and computing. 3. Books and electronic books. Books are a good source of information. The publishing process, where a book is checked by an editor before publishing, and often reviewed by another author, means that books are reliable sources of information, although they may need to be evaluated for bias. WorldCat references to over 1 billion items in 10,000 libraries worldwide. Internet Public Library. This project began from a graduate seminar in library and information studies at the University of Michigan. The idea is to find, review and categorize the best internet resources. There is a computing section. To find out about other books available in your subject area, you can search library catalogs or online bookshops. These are listed on the Open Library page. Catalogs and bookshops. 3. 4 databases. At a basic level, a database is a collection of information which can be searched. It is a way of storing, indexing, organizing and retrieving information. You may have created one yourself to keep track of your references or your friends' names and addresses. They are useful for finding articles on a topic, and can be used to search for many different types of information. You may find some of the following databases useful for your topic. They contain different types of information, but are all searchable. Roots is a database providing access to selected quality-assessed freely available internet resources, selected by course teams and the Open University Libraries learning and teaching librarians. 3. 5 journals. Journals and articles written by academics or experts are an excellent source of information. Journals are usually published monthly or quarterly, and contain a selection of articles providing details of recent research. Often they will also contain reviews of relevant books. They are usually published more quickly than books, and so are often more up to date. To access content of journals, most publishers require a subscription. There are, however, some journals which you can't really access in full text via the internet without paying a subscription fee. Directory of Open Access Journals DOAJ provides free access to selected scholarly journals. It can be browsed by title or subject, as well as searched for keywords. Architect, the searchable online magazine, provides information technology IT and network managers with strategic analysis, new technology and product reports and peer-to-peer information in the form of case studies. It is possible to sign up for free electronic newsletters. 3. 6 encyclopedias. Encyclopedias can be useful reference texts to use to start your research. There are some available online, such as Wikipedia, a freely available collaborative encyclopedia. 3. 7 choosing the right tool for the job. Before searching, it is always a good idea to check what the source you have chosen covers to make sure it will unearth information that matches your search need. You will notice that all the resources we've covered in this guide have short descriptions to enable you to decide which to use. Some of the decision makers, depending on the context of your search, might be: does it have full text? Does it cover the right subject? Does it match the type of information I need, e.g. news, figures, facts, opinion, research, etc.? Does it match the right format of information I need, e.g. books, journal articles, theses, images, etc.? Does it contain peer-reviewed information? 3. 8 summary. There is a lot of information available on computing via the internet. Try the activities below to start exploring what is available. Activity: use the internet for information and communication technology tool to find out the types of information available, and to identify some key websites. Don't forget to add any interesting and useful sites to your basket within the tutorial, or make a note of them to explore in more detail another time. 4. Evaluating computing information on the internet. 4. 1 prompt. There is so much information available on the internet on every topic imaginable. But how do you know if it is any good? And if you find a lot more information than you really need, how do you decide what to keep and who to discard? In this section we are going to introduce a simple checklist to help you to judge the quality of the information you find. Before we do this, spend a few minutes thinking about what is meant by information quality. Activity: imagine you are trying to find out about a current story in the news. Have a look at this website: http news:/bbc:/co:/uk. We would recommend this to you as a quality source of information. If you agree with us, jot down as many words as you can think of to describe what is good about the website. For example, you might think it is clearly presented. What did you come up with? Answer: we thought it was clearly presented, up to date, relevant to our purpose, authoritative, clear, who is responsible for it, gives a balanced view based on good evidence. We think there are 6 distinct aspects of information quality. These are presentation, relevance, objectivity, method, provenance, timeliness, or, for short, PROMPT. Let us look at the 6 aspects, one by one. 4. 2 P's for presentation. By presentation, we mean the way in which the information is communicated. You might want to ask yourself: is the language clear and easy to understand? Is the information clearly laid out so that it is easy to read? Are the fonts large enough and clear? Are the colors effective? E.g., White or yellow on black can be difficult to read. If there are graphics or photos, do they help the information to be communicated? If there is audio or video, is it clear? What about the use of animation? Is it helpful or distracting? Activity. Have a look at this website and explore it. What do you think of it? Can you suggest some problems with the presentation? HTTP. A sheet friendly. Main. HTML. Answer. You may have agreed with our concerns below. We thought there were problems with layout and navigation, choice of font, choice of pictures and design, choice of print size, lack of structure, language. Presentation is particularly important on the web because we all spend so much time reading online. Poor presentation can have a negative effect on our physical and mental well-being. One of the acknowledged experts on the usability of websites is Jacob Nielsen. If you would like to hear him talking about usability on the web, you could listen to this podcast interview or have a look at his website. 4. 3 R's for relevance. Relevance is an important factor to consider when you are evaluating information. It isn't so much a property of the information itself but of the relationship it has with your question or your information need. For example, if you are writing an essay about artificial intelligence, a book or website about the effects of gaming on children would not be relevant. So there are a number of ways in which a piece of information may not be relevant to your query. Geographical, it may relate to countries or areas which you are not interested in. Level, it may be too detailed. Specialist or too general. Simple, for the level at which you are working. Emphasis, it may not contain the kind of information you are seeking. This is often a question of emphasis, which may not be identifiable from a title, summary or abstract. Activity. You are helping your 6-year-old child with some homework on dinosaurs. Together you do an internet search and you find these: Learn English Kids Dinosaur, BBC Science and Nature Prehistoric Life, Natural History Museum Dinosaurs, Wikipedia Dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurs. Dinosaurs, which do you think is most likely to be relevant and why? Answer. We think that the Learn English Kids or BBC Science and Nature Prehistoric Life sites are probably the most relevant for our purposes. They are clearly presented and at about the right level, in tone and detail. For our 6-year-old, we might reject the Natural History Museum and Wikipedia sites on the grounds of level, because they may be too detailed and aimed at older children. We might reject the dinosaur site on the grounds of emphasis, because it is not appropriate to our needs. 4. 4O is for objectivity. One of the characteristics of good information is that it should be balanced and present both sides of an argument or issue. This way the reader is left to weigh out the evidence and make a decision. In reality, we recognize that no information is truly objective. This means that the onus is on you, the reader, to develop a critical awareness of the positions represented in what you read, and to take account of this when you interpret the information. In some cases, authors may be explicitly expressing a particular viewpoint. This is perfectly valid as long as they are explicit about the perspective they represent. Hidden bias, whether or not it is deliberate, can be misleading. This could be particularly important in a subject area where there is controversy. Activity. Can you think of any issues or topics where information may be biased in some ways? Answer. We thought of a few: vegetarianism, testing drugs on animals, human cloning, capital punishment, energy saving, smoking. Let us take an example look at each of these websites and consider whether you think they are likely to give objective information about the use of animals for testing new drugs. Stop Animal Tests. BBC Science and Nature Animal Experiments, RDS Online Home Office Animal Testing. With a controversial topic such as this, it is not too difficult to identify the viewpoints represented and therefore be aware of potential bias. In other cases it may be less obvious. It is important to remember to look out for vested interests. A website about headaches which is sponsored by a drug company is unlikely to be objective. Here the vested interest is financial. It is worth remembering that there are different types of vested interest. Financial vested interests protecting or selling a product or service. Media manipulation, a good story to sell papers or push up ratings. Political propaganda influencing public opinion. Government propaganda influencing public behavior. We do of course need to be conscious that our own judgment can be influenced by our beliefs. 4. 5M is for method. Method is about the way in which a piece of information is produced. This is quite a complex area as different types of information are produced in different ways. These are a few suggestions to look out for. Opinions. A lot of information is based on the opinion of individuals. They may or not be experts in their field. CP for provenance, but the key message is to be clear that it is just an opinion and must be valued as such. Research. You don't have to be an expert on research methods to ask some basic questions about research information. You need to develop a critical approach to reports of research, particularly when these are summarized in the popular media. Activity. For example, here is a news story. A study by researchers at an American university reveals that 8 out of 10 people dislike music being played while they are shopping. What questions might you want to ask about the methods used to carry out this research? Answer. We thought we would want to know. How many people did they ask? Did they ask both men and women, and, if so, in what proportion? What ages were the people they asked? How did they ask people? Did they stop them in the street? Was it a postal questionnaire? All these questions and more are important because they could affect how much you are likely to trust the results. For example, a group of 20-year-old women are likely to give a very different response from a group of middle-aged men. Reviews of research. Many articles and books contain reviews of research. We use reviews as a shortcut to looking for all the primary research ourselves. But reviews vary. Some merely bring together the reviewer's selection of research on a topic. Others, sometimes called systematic reviews or overviews, try to collect and review all the research on the topic in question. It may be important to your work to ascertain which kind of review you are looking at. 4. 6P is for provenance. The provenance of a piece of information. i.e., who produced it? Where did it come from? May provide another useful clue to its reliability. It represents the credentials of a piece of information that support its status and perceived value. It is therefore very important to be able to identify the author, sponsoring body or source of your information. Why is this important? Activity. Can you think of any reasons why you would want to know who produced a particular website? Answer. We thought of a number of reasons why we would want to know the authors or the organization responsible. Authors. If you know who the author is, you can find out whether they are an acknowledged expert in the subject area. Find out what other papers or books they have published. Perhaps trace unpublished material like their PhD thesis. Find out if they are known to have a particular perspective on the topic and whether their views are controversial. Perhaps contact them in person. Organizations. Knowing about the sponsoring organization can tell you a great deal. We have already looked at vested interests, and it is important to be able to identify and take account of these. Here are some of the questions you might wish to ask. What is the business of the organization? Is it a commercial company? A voluntary organization? A statutory body? A research organization? How well established is it? Does it have a history? Is it ephemeral? Short-lived? Can you identify the people involved in the organization? Could you contact them if you wanted to verify the information or find out more? Do the people have other interests or links which might have a bearing on the way you regard the information? Activity. As an example, can you tell who is responsible for this site? HTTP. DB. Net. DTI. Answer. You will probably have deduced that this site is a spoof. Others may not be as easy to identify. 4. 7T is for timeliness. The date when information was produced or published can be an important aspect of quality. This is not quite as simple as saying that good information has to be up to date. Activity. Here is an example of a news item from an online news source. HTTP. News BBC CO UK 1 HI Entertainment Music 3491927 STM. Would you say that the information above is out of date? Answer. Well, it isn't. In other words, one person's out-of-date cutting is someone else's historical document. Some documents, the Domesday Book for example, are indeed timeless in that they will always be regarded as relevant. In other cases, it will be very important indeed for information to be up to date. Activity. It is, of course, more important for some kind of information to be up to date than others. Have a look at the list of types of information below and think about which need to be up to date. A roadmap, a painting, a news item, a press release, a review of research, a book of poetry, a government circular, a scientific research article, a patent, population statistics, a technical manual, a news website. Answer. We thought these needed to be up to date. A roadmap, a news item, a press release, a review of research, a government circular, a scientific research article, population statistics, a news website. 4. 8. Summary. In this section we have introduced you to the prompt checklist as a useful tool for assessing the quality of any piece of information. If you use it regularly, you will find that you develop the ability to scan information quickly and identify strengths and weaknesses. As a closing exercise, you might like to pick one of the websites below or any of your own choice and try to evaluate it using the prompt criteria. To make it easier for you, we have provided a printable checklist. See below. Click on View Document below to open the printable checklist. View Document. International Journal of Algebra and Computation. Collection of software bugs. 5. Organizing your information. 5. 1. Why is it important to be organized? 87. Of items that are filed into a filing cabinet are never looked at again. Stanford University. The world is producing nearly 2 exabytes of new and unique information every year. An exabyte is a new term that had to be coined for a billion gigabytes. All the words ever spoken by human beings comes to 5 exabytes. University of California, Berkeley. More new information has been produced in the last 30 years than in the 5,000 years before that. Information skills for an information society. Carol Coultham, 1987. Eric Clearinghouse for Information, ISBN 0937597147. A new blog is created every second. Technorati. 10. Of salary costs are wasted as employees search for information to complete tasks. Computer World. The world today bombards you with facts. There is such a wealth of information coming at you from a variety of sources that to be able to work effectively you need to have some system for organizing it all. Think of a typical day. How much time do you waste looking for a piece of information you need? Activity. Joe, a student, has identified some sources to write an assignment on GM foods. Have a look at the 3 images below and see if you can spot what problems might occur if Joe wants to use these. Answer. This is what we thought. Image 1. We think that these must be some notes that Joe has made about one of the sources S. He's looked at there's even a good quote flagged up as important, but there's no indication of the title of the book or journal article in which S. He found it. Image 2. We think this looks like a photocopy of a journal article, but it isn't a very good one because the photocopier has cut the name of the journal and the article title off the top. Image 3. We think this is part of a reference. It could be a reference to a book or a journal article. There isn't really any clue, and it could be the title of a chapter or journal article, or a quote. Joe can't remember why it was so important. To use these items in an assignment, Joe would need the full reference, which S. He hasn't got. Joe would need to spend more time trying to track these sources down again if S. He wanted to use them. By taking a bit more time to be organized at the start, you can actually save yourself time later on. 5. 2 ways of organizing yourself. How do you organize yourself? Activity. Make a note of how you organize your emails, internet bookmarks or favorites, computer files, Your household paperwork, for example bills, insurance documents, guarantees, receipts. Book, 400, record, video or DVD collection. Compare your notes with the 3 people below. Person 1, I tend to be organized because I have my books grouped by author, and if they're in a series then the series has to be in order. My CDs are alphabetized by surname, or name of band, with compilations alphabetically by title at the end of the sequence. I also have a filing cabinet for all household paperwork, with individual files for gas, electricity, car, and so on. Yes, I'm a born librarian. Person 2, I don't really organize my emails. I read then delete unless it's a receipt, then I'll print it off and put it in a safe place, never to be seen again. I do add my favorite web pages to my toolbar, but this is more down to laziness rather than organization. All my household bills are shoved in a box which I tidy out once every 6 months. My books are on a bookcase in no particular order, as are my DVDs and CDs. Yes, I really am this disorganized, but somehow it hasn't had a negative effect on me so far. Person 3, I tend to be quite ruthless with filing. A hatred of clutter helps. Emails. Only open 3-4 times per day, when read either. A delete. B action if short, C keep to action later that day or next. I have a fairly simple filing system but tend not to save on the basis that someone will have a copy. I have an automatic rule set to delete emails more than 6 months old. I've never missed any deleted ones. PC filing. No more than 10 folders on broad topics and no more than 4-5 subfolders in each. I find it easier to file and retrieve using broad topics. I try to keep the contents down to a single screenful. Older files are ruthlessly purged. Favorite websites, no more than a dozen, which I use regularly. Others are easily found anyway. Paper filing at home. A deliberately small filing cabinet sectioned into utilities. Insurance, car, job, credit cards, etc. I only keep 1 year's worth of bills, etc. and try to throw out the oldest when a new one arrives, but that doesn't always work out. So between Christmas and New Year I go through and shred anything older than the year just finishing. My New Year purge also applies to books. If I haven't opened it for 2-3 years I'm probably not going to. CDs. DVDs 1-2 year rule and close 1 year rule. Local charity shops do well. This policy has the double benefit of keeping collections to a reasonable size and making me think. Do I really need to buy, keep, store it if I'm going to throw it out in a couple of years? But I guess minimalism is not to everyone's taste. My motto. If in doubt, throw it out. Answer. Whilst each of these people have different ways of organizing information, one thing becomes clear. Find a system that works for you and use it. How complex or simple your system is will depend on the type of information you deal with, and how you are going to use it, as these 2 audio clips show. Click below to listen to the first audio clip, View Document. Click below to listen to the second audio clip, View Document. The Silver Surfers are using the internet for leisure purposes, and so they don't really need to keep track of things, because they are sites they regularly use or can search for again. The researchers have to keep a research log, and will eventually be writing a dissertation that will reference all the sources they use. So the researchers are more organized and are careful about storing their information. 5. 3. 1. Desktop search tools. Finding your paperwork or electronic files can be a problem. You may find that even if you do have some sort of filing system, your structure soon gets quite large with files in multiple locations, which can be hard to navigate. You may find yourself making arbitrary decisions about which folder to place a document in. It may make sense now, but in the future, when you look where you think it should be, it's not there. At times like this you may resort to the search command from the Windows Start menu. If, like me, you have a PC with hundreds of thousands of files, you may find that search can take quite a while. This is because, unlike search engines, the basic search tool on Windows PCs does have to search through every file when a search is made. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a search engine for your desktop? Well, the good news is that there are several available, some of which are free for personal use. The majority of the free desktop search tools are provided by the big search engines in the hope that by providing a complete search experience you will use them for all your search needs. For an overview of desktop search tools, read the following article by Pandia. Activity. Download one of the following desktop search tools. You need to check your PC specifications first to make sure that you can run it on your machine. Ask Coperna Google Desktop Windows Live Toolbar Yahoo Desktop Search. When you have installed a tool, do a search on your PC using the tool. Now do the same search using the Windows search command from the Start menu. Did you get the same results? The first time you use a desktop search tool, it will need to build an index of the contents of your hard drive. This can take several hours, so you will have to be patient. Once the tool has built an index, any new documents you put on your computer will tend to be archived as they arrive, so the index will keep itself up to date without you noticing. So why, you may ask, do I need to bother with organizing my files when I can search for them? Using tools such as these means that you may not need to be quite so organized about how you organize your information. However, when you perform a search, there is an assumption that the term you are searching for appears in the document somewhere. But there may be occasions when you can't decide what term to search for, or you may not know if it is in the document if you haven't actually read the item. Additionally, each search you perform does take some time, and you may have limited time available, so it makes sense to have some system of organizing your files to complement such desktop search tools to maximize your chance of finding the information you need. 5. 3. 2. The 5DS. If you don't use a system at all, then you could suffer from the effects of information overload. Losing important information. Wasting time on trying to find things. Ending up with piles of physical and virtual stuff everywhere. One technique you might like to apply to your files, be they paper or electronic, is the 5DS. Try applying these and see if you can reduce your information overload. The 5DS, adapted from John Codd 1999, 30 Minutes to Manage Information Overload, London, Kogan page. Discard. Deal with it, make a din. Do it now. Determine future action, sift it, schedule it now for tomorrow. Direct. Distribute it. A. Why are you directing it? B. What do you expect the recipient to do with it? Deposit it, file it. 5. 4. Social bookmarks. If you find you have a long and manageable list of favorites bookmarks, you might like to try social bookmarks as an alternative. Activity. What you need to know about social bookmarks. Read 7 things you should know about social bookmarking by EDUCAUSE, May 2005. Available from EDUCAUSE Learning Initiative. Answer the following questions. What are the differences between social bookmarks and ordinary browser bookmarks favorites? What are the benefits of using social bookmarks? Are there any drawbacks of using social bookmarks? How is tagging different from formal metadata? Answer. This is what we thought. Social bookmarks are stored publicly on a website, whereas bookmarks are stored on your PC. Social bookmarks have tags that help you identify what the site is about, whereas favorites just have a title and are stored in a folder structure. Social bookmarks are shared, whereas favorites tend to be personal. You can access your social bookmarks from anywhere. You can see other people's social bookmarks on the same topic, so you might find new information or see things you hadn't thought about before. You can find people who are interested in the same things as you. There may be some dodgy tagging, so people don't use the tags in the same way as you, or may use the tag in a derogatory manner. You may find you get items that bear no resemblance to what you're looking for because of the different way people use tags. Tagging is done by amateurs. There is no formally controlled vocabulary or taxonomy, and it can be of poor quality. Tags change to reflect current trends. The formal metadata done by professionals has a structure and vocabulary that doesn't always reflect terminology you would use. To explore social bookmarks for yourself, try one of the tools listed here. Del. Isio. Spurl feed me links. Hyperlink-o-matic simply for linkless social bookmarking tools are good for exploring current trends and technologies. Small, close-knit communities with agreed tagging conventions. Helping to remember terms that are meaningful to you. Access from anywhere, unlike favorites which are PC-specific. Preserving a snapshot of a site, for example, Furl can keep a record for you, so if the site should change or be removed you can still see a copy of the original. 5. Copyright. What you need to know. An original piece of work, whether it is text, music, pictures, sound recordings, web pages, etc., is protected by copyright law and may often have an accompanying symbol or legal statement. In the UK it is the Copyright, Designs and Patents Act 1988 which regulates this. In most circumstances, works protected by copyright can be used in whole or in part only with the permission of the owner. In some cases this permission results in a fee. However, the UK legislation includes a number of exceptions known as fair dealing. Fair dealing allows the free use of part of a published work for non-commercial research or private study, for criticism or review purposes, or for reporting current events. The source must always be quoted, so make sure you get all the details when you take a photocopy or print from a web page so you can acknowledge where you got it from. If you would like to read a bit more about copyright and what is permitted, have a look at the copyright site on the Information Skills for Researchers page to find out about copyright in other countries. You might like to check out the International Federation of Reproductive Rights Organizations website. This is an international membership organization, and if you follow the link to their membership page then you will see a list of international copyright organizations. 5. Referencing. We mentioned above that we need to reference sources to ensure we abide by copyright legislation. But there is another reason we need to give accurate references to items we use so we can share it. Consider this scenario. A friend says they've just read an interesting article where Joshua Schachter, founder of Dell ISO, has spoken about why it isn't a faceted search system, and you should read it. How would you go about finding it? Would you start looking in a news database, a search engine, or a journals database? When I tried this by putting Joshua Schachter's name into various search tools, using delicious as a search term, and faceted as a term, I found I got lots of articles, but I didn't know whether any of them was the right one, as none of them seemed quite right. So what is the minimum level of information needed to find the right article? Activity: what information is needed to find the correct source? For the following types of resource, identify necessary and sufficient information to be able to discover an item with a degree of certainty that it is the correct one. Complete the table by choosing from the list below to identify what you feel is the minimum level of information for each type of resource. E.g. For book you might feel that ISBN and author is sufficient, so your first row would be book paper ISBN, author director, author, title, article title, broadcaster, type of podcast, ISBN, publisher, pages, date, volume, title of video, where it was published, author, organization, date you visited the site, issue number, URL. Resource identifying information: book paper, book electronic, journal article paper, journal article electronic, website, video, podcast. Answer: this is what we thought. Resource identifying information: book paper, author, title, date, publisher, where it was published, ISBN, book electronic, author, title, date, publisher, URL, ISBN, journal article paper, author, article title, journal title, date, volume, issue number, pages, journal article electronic, author, article title, journal title, date, volume, issue number, pages, URL, website, author or organization, title, URL, date you visited the site, video director, title of video, date, podcast title, date, broadcaster, URL, type of podcast. You also need accurate information to be able to find resources you have used in the past. Sometimes an ISBN number or URL just isn't enough. What happens if the book goes out of print, or the web page is withdrawn, or someone gives an incorrect reference? By giving more information, you increase the chance of being able to locate the item again. You may also find that the level of detail you need to give varies according to the purpose. For example, if you want to buy a book from Amazon, usually an author and/or title is sufficient. For a reading list, you would usually include the year too, as often academic textbooks have different editions, so the year is important to make sure you've got the right version. To help people to share this information, reference styles have been developed. These are standards that specify what information is required to produce a reference, and how it should be laid out in a consistent manner. If you read an academic article or book, you will often find a list of references at the end. Depending on what courses you study, you may have to write an essay, in which case you will be expected to acknowledge the sources used in a bibliography or reference list. You will see reference styles, also called citation styles. For this unit, consider reference to mean the same thing as citation. The minimum elements for all references are author or equivalent, title, date, publisher, place, either physical location or URL. The thing that changes from style to style is how they look when you write the reference for your bibliography, and how you present them in the text. Activity: exploring reference styles. Try the citation builder at Calvin. Type in the following reference into the citation builder using electronic under source type and journal under resource. Nicole Ellison, Rebecca Hino, and Jennifer Gibbs. 2006. Managing Impressions Online. Self-Presentation Processes in the Online Dating Environment. Journal of Computer-Mediated Communication, 11/2 online. Available from http. JCMC. Indiana. Edu. Vol 11. Issue 2. Ellison. HTML. Last access November 20, 2006. Have a look at the reference in each of the different styles MA, APA, Chicago, and see if you can spot the differences. Answer. Here are the 3 references produced by this tool. MA, Ellison, Nicole, Rebecca Hino, and Jennifer Gibbs. Managing Impressions Online. Self-Presentation Processes in the Online Dating Environment. Journal of Computer-Mediated Communication, 11/2 2006. 20 Nov. 2006. http. JCMC. Indiana. Edu. Vol 11. Issue 2. Ellison. HTML. APA. Ellison. N. Hino. R. and Gibbs. J. 2006. Managing Impressions Online. Self-Presentation Processes in the Online Dating Environment. Journal of Computer-Mediated Communication, 11/2. Retrieved November 20, 2006, from http. JCMC. Indiana. Edu. Vol 11. Issue 2. Ellison. HTML. Chicago. Ellison, Nicole, Rebecca Hino, and Jennifer Gibbs. Managing Impressions Online. Self-Presentation Processes in the Online Dating Environment. Journal of Computer-Mediated Communication, 11/2 2006. http. JCMC. Indiana. Edu. Vol 11. Issue 2. Ellison. HTML. November 20, 2006. As you can see, the differences tend to be in how each reference is formatted. In MLA and Chicago styles, the author names are given in full, whereas APA has used initials for first names. MA underlines the journal title, but the other 2 styles italicize it. They each format the volume and issue number differently. There are other differences that make each style unique, but the core information remains the same. Leeds University Library provides a list of useful citation and referencing links where you can see examples of a range of different styles. 5. 7. Bibliographic software. If you are considering taking your studies further, you might like to consider using bibliographic software. Bibliographic software can be used to sort references, annotate them, manage quotations, or create reading lists. There are several software packages on the market. Some are listed below. Bibliotext EndNote ProCite Reference Manager Ref works. If you are not sure whether to invest in one of these packages, you might like to try out Zotero, a free web-based tool that allows you to manage your references from within your web browser. At the time of writing, Zotero was available in beta version, and is only available for users of the Mozilla Firefox browser. 5. 8. Plagiarism. Referencing is not only useful as a way of sharing information, but also as a means of ensuring that due credit is given to other people's work. In the electronic information age, it is easy to copy and paste from journal articles and web pages into your own work. But if you use someone else's work, you should acknowledge the source by giving a correct reference. Taking someone's work and not indicating where you took it from is termed plagiarism and is regarded as an infringement of copyright. To attempt to pass off such work as your own is cheating. Activity: how does it feel to be plagiarist? Read the following article. Bloomfield, S. and Gumbel, A. 2006. The Teenage Plagiarist. Independent, 7 May, p. 24. Available from http findarticles.com. p. Articles, MQN 4159. Is 20,060,507. IN 163533946. The article is about a recent plagiarism case, which illustrates the consequences of being caught plagiarizing. While you're reading, think about the following questions and make a note of your answer. How does it feel to be a victim of plagiarism? Why is it important to be aware of, and avoid, plagiarism in your work? Answer. This is what we thought. If you had worked really hard on something, wouldn't you feel angry if someone else stole your work? Wouldn't you want everyone to know that was your work, not theirs, and they should be punished for the crime? If you plagiarize, you are also limiting the development of your own learning. You're not giving yourself a chance to think and develop, because you're just copying someone else's thoughts. There can also be legal repercussions. Ms. Viswanathan's plagiarism has resulted in public humiliation and the loss of her literary career. Who is going to want to publish her now after she's been caught plagiarizing? As a student, submitting a plagiarist essay may not result in the loss of money, but it could result in you failing your course or being downgraded. By ensuring that you manage your information and keep accurate records of sources you use, you can ensure that you are not guilty of plagiarism. 6. Keeping up to date. 6. 1. Introduction. The process of keeping up to date in your chosen subject area is useful for your studies and afterwards, for your own personal satisfaction, or perhaps in your career as part of your continuing professional development. There are a great many tools available that make it quite easy to keep yourself up to date. You can set them up so that the information comes to you, rather than you having to go out on the web looking for it. Over the next few pages, you will be experimenting with some of the available tools. Keep a note of any tools you use and how they work, so that if you find out later they are not as useful as you had hoped, it will be easy for you to unsubscribe, and avoid being overwhelmed with information you perhaps weren't expecting. 6. 2. Alerts. Online bookshops and some of the major search engines offer alerts services. These work by allowing you to set up a profile once you have registered on their site, and when there are items meeting your criteria you receive an email. The good thing about alerts is that you don't have to do anything once you have set up your profile. The downside, particularly with alerts services from the search engines, is that given the extent to which internet traffic is on the increase, whether new web pages or new blog postings, you may end up with rather a lot of information to deal with. Google and Yahoo offer alerting services for new web-based content, e.g. blog postings, news. For more academic information, MyIntute is a personalization service from the Intute Gateway. Gateways like Intute index quality-controlled internet resources. By registering, you will receive email alerts for new items matching your criteria when they are added to the Intute Gateway. This also applies to any searches that you save. Keep up to date with new books in your subject area by registering with an online bookshop, such as Blackwell's. Activity: setting up alerts. Choose one of the alerting services outlined above and set up an alert. You may have to register for an account first, if you haven't already got one. 6. 3 mailing lists and newsgroups. Mailing or discussion list are email-based discussion groups. When you send an email to a mailing list address, it is sent automatically to all the other members of the list. The majority of academic-related mailing lists in the UK are maintained by JISCmail. You will find details of joining these mailing lists on the JISCmail website. Mailing lists are useful for getting in touch with like-minded colleagues. They are also handy for keeping up to date with current thinking and research. A common problem with mailing lists is the sheer volume of material available. You may feel pressured to read every single contribution. You can manage this information by choosing carefully which to join. Most JISCmail mailing lists feature an archive, so you can check the quality of the discussion and the number of messages before you decide to join. Some mailing lists also offer a digest function, whereby you will receive a single message containing all the day's messages to the list, rather than all of the messages individually. Mailing lists are not just about keeping up to date academically, of course. Google maintains a listing of newsgroups at http://groups.google.com, where you can find discussions about every topic under the sun. Groups are created around a topic, profession or common interest, and can be very useful as a source of information, and to bring like-minded people together. Newsgroups are similar to discussion lists in that you can send and receive messages, but instead of them arriving in your email box, you can access the newsgroups files to read the postings. It is rather like looking at a notice board. Activity. Spend a few minutes browsing through either the JISCmail or Google listings to see if there are any email lists or newsgroups that you might like to join. 6. 4 blogs. Technorati reports that over 100,000 new blogs are created each day. Because these online diaries offer instant publishing opportunities, you potentially have access to a wealth of knowledge from commentators and experts if they blog in a wide range of fields. Most internet searchers will turn up results from blogs, but there are some blog-specific search engines such as Blogger and Google's blog search. Some blogs also offer RSS feeds, so you can add them to your feed reader to keep up to date with what your favorite bloggers are writing. One thing to bear in mind is that the content of blogs is likely to be as diverse and varied as the people who are writing it. It's therefore practical to apply some evaluation skills if you intend to rely on the information you find on blogs in any way. In particular, look for timeliness. How often is the blog updated? Provenance and objectivity. What is the blog for? Who put it there and why? 6. 5 RSS. RSS really simple syndication or rich site summary newsfeed supply headlines, links, and article summaries from various websites. By using RSS feed reader software, you can gather together a range of feeds and read them in one place. They come to you, rather than you having to go out and look for breaking news. The range of RSS feeds on offer is growing daily. There is probably a feed to cover all aspects of your life where you might need the latest information, and you may find that most of the websites you visit already offer RSS. Look for the orange button. To set up RSS feeds, firstly you need to choose what sort of feed reader to use. There are online feed readers, which you can access from any computer, anywhere, or desktop feed readers, which are pieces of software which you can download and use on your own computer. Bloglines is a popular online feed reader, whilst Awasu is a desktop feed reader. There are a number of ways of getting feeds into your feed reader, depending on which one you use. Right-clicking on the orange button might give you the option to add a link directly to your feed reader, or there may be commands built into your feed reader to enable you to add it. If you click on the orange icon on the BBC website, for example, you get instructions as to how to add a feed to your feed reader. You will also find that your feed reader will enable you to easily add feeds from their pre-selected content. For example, in Bloglines, once you have logged in, selecting directory will give you a list of popular content. Choosing subscribe will add them to the My Feeds list. Activity. Try this for yourself. Choose a feed reader. Add some of their pre-selected content. Set up a feed to, for example, the BBC or your daily newspaper. Depending on the feed reader you have chosen, you may have to check exactly how it works to get the feeds in. 6. Professional bodies and societies. Consider joining a learned society or professional organization. They can be very useful for conference bulletins as well as in-house publications, often included in the subscription. Don't forget to ask about student rates. Try looking for the websites of learned societies associated with your subject area. E.g., the Royal Society, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. You may have to pay a subscription or be a member of the society to access all of the information on the web, but they are very good places to find out about conferences or talks and current research findings in your subject area. You might find it worth taking out a personal subscription to useful journals or newsletters in your subject area. These could be professional, academic or trade-related. Look at journals circulated at work, or available in a workplace library or information unit. Alternatively, use a local library to scan current copies of journals, particularly useful if you do not want to take out your own subscriptions. Do this. Now you have completed this unit, you might like to post a message to the unit forum, review or add to your learning journal, rate this unit. Try this. You might also like to find out more about the related Open University course. Book a flash meeting to talk live with other learners. Create a knowledge map to summarize this topic.